Vision and hearing alone are not enough for survival. Humans rely on many additional sensory receptors to detect chemical signals. Mechanical pressure, temperature changes, tissue damage, and body position in space. In this lesson, we'll explore these other sensory systems and how they contribute to perception and survival. Sensory receptors are specialized cells that detect specific types of stimuli and convert them into electrical signals. These receptors differ in structure and function depending on the type of stimulus they detect, but all follow the same basic principle of transduction. The largest organ in the body, and the one responsible for our sense of touch, is the skin. The skin contains several types of touch receptors. Meissner's corpuscles detect light touch and texture and adapt quickly. Merkel's disc detects sustained pressure and fine detail. Pacinian corpuscles detect deep pressure and vibration. Ruffini endings detect skin stretch and sustained pressure. Together, these receptors allow precise control of movement and object manipulation. This diagram shows where different mechanoreceptors are located within the skin. Free nerve endings detect pain, heat, and cold. Merkel discs, Meissner's corpuscles, Pacinian corpuscles, and Ruffini endings respond to different forms of touch and pressure. Each receptor type provides unique sensory information. Pain receptors, called nociceptors, detect potential or actual tissue damage. Thermoreceptors detect changes in temperature. Together, these receptors protect the body by triggering rapid withdrawal responses and behavioral changes before serious damage occurs. Pain is not just discomfort. It is a critical survival signal. The chemical senses include taste and smell. Taste receptors detect dissolved chemicals and classify them into sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Olfactory receptors detect airborne chemicals and play a key role in detecting hazards, identifying food, and influencing memory and emotion. Olfactory cells line the upper nasal cavity and are directly connected to the olfactory bulb in the brain. This close connection explains why smells are strongly linked to memory and emotion. Smell is a powerful sensory system that can trigger immediate behavioral responses. When you smell something pleasant to you, do you smile? That is because it is likely due to that smell being related to a pleasant memory. Proprioception is the body's ability to sense position and movement without relying on vision. Proprioceptors located in muscles, tendons, and joints provide continuous information about body position. This system is essential for balance, posture, and coordinated movement. Sensory systems do not function in isolation. Detection alone is meaningless unless the brain can interpret what the stimulus means and decide how to respond. Integration of sensory information allows the nervous system to create a coherent picture of the environment. Sensation is the detection of a stimulus by sensory receptors. Perception is the interpretation of that sensory information by the brain. This distinction explains why two individuals can experience the same stimulus, but perceive it differently. Context, experience, and expectation all influence perception. Sensory information will follow a distinct path. First, a stimulus activates sensory receptors. Next, receptors transduce the stimulus into electrical signals. These signals travel along neurons toward the central nervous system. Information may be modified in the spinal cord or brainstem before being processed in specific brain regions. And there the CNS pairs the stimulus with the response. Most real-world experiences involve multiple sensory systems working together. A rabbit avoids being eaten by integrating its sense of sight, hearing, and smell. By seeing, hearing, and smelling predators. It can live to run another day. Vision, hearing, touch, balance, and proprioception are integrated by the brain to produce accurate perception. When these systems agree, perception is stable and reliable. As we previously learned, the thalamus is a major sensory relay center in the brain. Most sensory information passes through the thalamus before reaching the cerebral cortex. The thalamus filters input, regulates attention, and prioritizes signals based on relevance, preventing sensory overload. We do not see the world as it actually is, but rather as we perceive it to be. Perception is influenced by experience. A trained musician can detect subtle pitch differences. An experienced athlete can anticipate movement before it occurs. Cultural experiences also shape how sensory cues are interpreted. The brain constantly uses past information to interpret present input. That is why two people can see the same thing but perceive it completely differently. Do you constantly feel the pressure from your shoes on your feet? How about the sound of the wind outside? Sensory adaptation is a reduced response to constant stimulation over time. This allows the nervous system to focus on changes rather than unchanging background information. Without sensory adaptation, the brain would be overwhelmed and unable to detect important changes. If you are sensing everything, you will be able to respond to practically nothing. We rely very heavily on our sensory systems to survive. Sensory systems are complex and vulnerable to disruption. Damage at any point along a sensory pathway can alter or eliminate perception. Medical technologies such as hearing aids and cochlear implants help restore sensory function when possible. These medical interventions can assist in restoring sensory capacity. So what can we take from all of this? Humans rely on more than the traditional 5 senses, including vestibular, proprioceptive, and interoceptive systems. Perception results from detection, transduction, and interpretation. The central truth is that perception is constructed by the brain, not directly recorded by receptors. I hope that this video has given you a greater appreciation for other senses and their importance.